Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show. Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show that reaches 42 million households, including 2 million across United States of America. In this 43rd episode of Dr. VGP Talk Show, we are featuring a phenomenal woman who is a combat veteran, an instructional pilot, an entrepreneur, an Christian par excellence, and also a leadership instructor. You're going to hear her story of how she entered the Air Force Academy and how in 2009 she served in the Iraqi Freedom Operation, and how she set up the first mission aero pipeline and the battle-proven leadership corporation. She's also the National Security Advisor for Polaris Security Group, which is a very renowned group which advises leaders all over the world. We are in Maryville, Indiana, at the home of Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Ruth Green, who's a combat veteran who has recently published a best-selling book on leadership, and that book is called People Don't Quit Their Jobs, They Quit Their Bosses. It's a must-read book. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this inspirational journey of a young 42-year-old Black Asian. Her father is African, her mother is Filipino. Meet Jennifer Ruth Green, a combat veteran who was on the war field and today flies high in her own Cessna 172 four-seater aircraft.
I'm not just a pilot or a combat veteran. I'm Jennifer Ruth Green, and you and I aren't all that different. Our paths may be, but we both want the same thing: to leave this country better than we found it. I'm the youngest of 6, and in my house, integrity was everything. My father and grandfathers both served in the military, and I followed in their footsteps. After the Air Force Academy, I served my country in Baghdad as a combat mission commander trained to vet and recruit spies. Then I chose to make Northwest Indiana my home and start a faith-based nonprofit designed to serve at-risk youth by providing training in the aerospace industry.
Hello and welcome to Dr. VGP Talk Show that reaches 42 million households, including 2 million households in Chicagoland and the rest of North America. We're here today at Maryville, Indiana, to introduce and meet and greet a phenomenal woman, Colonel Green.
Thank you, Dr. VGP. It's an honor to be here today.
Thank you so much for joining us, Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Ruth Green, a combat veteran, a philanthropist, a personality par excellence, an entrepreneur, a leadership instructor, an Air Force pilot, and I can go on and on and on. Lieutenant Colonel Green, could you tell us about your early childhood?
Absolutely. So I grew up in a very loving family. My parents, my mom is Filipino, my dad is Black, and they have been married 54 years as of last December. And I'm the youngest of 6. And so I am my parents' favorite. That's very clear to everyone. And I grew up in Sacramento. I was born in Long Beach, but my parents moved to Sacramento as a result of my father's military career. So I grew up there, and when I was 18, I had the opportunity to go off to the United States Air Force Academy. But I grew up in a loving home, a Christian home, where I knew that I was loved, and I had the unique opportunity to play sports, to travel. And one of the unique things about my childhood, my mom speaks Tagalog, my father speaks Russian. And when I was younger, they wanted my siblings and I to study another language. So we couldn't find a Russian school in the area, so they sent us to Japanese school. So studied Japanese from 2nd grade to 10th grade, minored in it in college, and I love the Japanese culture, love the Japanese people, love the Japanese language.
Say hello in Japanese to all our viewers today.
こんばんは。私の名前は Green Jennifer Ruth です。どうぞよろしく。
Wow, wasn't that incredible? Here you're meeting Lieutenant Colonel Green, who's a 3rd generation combat veteran. Her grandfather was also a combat veteran. Her father, who's an African American, was a veteran. And today, Ruth Green, a Black Asian, is shortened form for Blasian, I guess, a Black Asian. Her father being an African American and mother is a Filipino. It's so interesting. So tell us, at 18 years, you joined U.S. Air Force Academy.
I did.
And from there, in 2009, you were part of the Operation Iraqi Freedom. You were in the midst of the war. So tell us your challenging times, your exciting times from your Air Force Academy days to the combat days.
Absolutely. So the United States Air Force Academy is nestled in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains in Colorado Springs. And it is an amazing leadership laboratory. There are 4,000 cadets, and we have the unique opportunity for 4 years to understand all of the things that the United States Air Force would want to pack into its leaders. And so during that time, it was an opportunity for me to learn myself. It was an opportunity to learn about leadership, how I failed, how I could succeed, how I could be better. And I had models, dozens of models of leadership. But the interesting thing about our class was that September 11th, 2001 occurred while we were freshmen. And I remember it was a very quiet day. Nothing was happening. And I was sitting in a lecture with a senior level officer. And in the middle of that briefing, that senior level officer was removed from the meeting, and he just left, and we sat there. We had no idea. Come to find out later, as a 3-star general, they were moving him to protect him. But we found out later that our world, our country had been changed. And several months later, we were a nation at war. And so at the Air Force Academy, as a freshman and sophomore, there's no commitment to serve in the military. However, when you reach your junior year, you are required to serve 5 years of commissioned service. So before that junior year, you can leave. And the most unique thing I think about our class, our graduating class, was that we were freshmen when it occurred, and yet we lost nobody when it came to our junior year. Nobody said, I didn't come and sign up for this. I didn't sign up to serve in the military. Everybody commissioned that was eligible to commission. And shortly after we graduated, as soon as we were trained, the military kicked us off into combat. And my particular assignment in combat was as a counterintelligence agent. And my training was to vet and recruit spies. And I had the privilege to work with a lot of government agencies, 3 letters. We call it alphabet soup, whether it's the FBI or NCIS or CID. And so all of these agencies that were working on counterintelligence. And it was an honor to be in Baghdad, but war is the ugliest thing I have ever seen. It's not like a video game. People don't come back. And you actually have to understand the difference between making life and death decisions. And as a combat mission commander, one of the key things that I had to come to grips with was it is my responsibility to make sure that everybody under my command came back in the same condition or better. And that was my task every single day.
My God, it is tremendous how you just explained. Now tell us something. Your role was counterintelligence.
Yes, sir.
To vet and to recruit spies. And you were a combat mission commander.
Yes.
And I could imagine in Baghdad when you were there in 2009 how difficult it was. Tell us, how did you go about vetting and recruiting spies?
And so as you know, Dr. VGP, we have a lot of classified activity that occurs in combat and a lot of classified training. But on a very surface level, it's very important to understand that the information we're receiving from the people that we want to connect with is verified. And so it's our intent to further American purposes, and we have to get the right information, and we have to make sure it's right. So in order to do that, we have to vet the people that we're connected with to say, hey, is the information going to be true? But we also have to make sure that the information they give us can be acted upon, because we are asking others to give their lives to act upon it. And so as part of our training, that was part of our responsibility to understand how to effectively achieve U.S. objectives while ensuring that the people we were connecting with who are outside of our networks normally were giving us true information.
So at 27 years old, you were part of the Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yes, sir.
And it took you 9 years of training of leadership in the Air Force Academy to get there.
So we had 4 years of training at the academy, graduated in 2005, and then I actually started flying for the Air Force for a little while.
Good.
And then I transitioned to become a special agent, and within 2 years, I was in combat.
Great. Now, what did you see as your strengths, which was able to transition you as special agent at that time?
So as I mentioned, war is the ugliest thing I've ever been a part of. And when we talk about what the personal strength is when it comes to combat, it is this senseless service that you desire to have and exhibit, because you recognize that your focus as a leader is not limited to time and place. So for example, the people that I serve today, the people that I was serving alongside at that moment, as a mission commander, my job is to ensure I set the route. My job is to make sure that we're safe. My job is to accomplish our task for the day. If it was to meet with various people, if it was to connect with various people, if it was to do a hearts and minds mission and provide some sort of tools or some needs to the local Iraqis to make some friendships, that was my task. But at the same time, the work that I was doing was going to free the Iraqis, and it was going for a larger purpose. And there were people that I would never know who would be impacted by the decisions that I made today. So my decisions on that particular day managed to take place in a greater scope than just that day or that time. So, and it was just more than the people that I was with. So it was not only the 6 people in my car, in my mine-resistant, ambush-protected AMRAP truck, it was also the Iraqis that were in the country. But then I realized later on that the scope of my leadership extended to people who would never know my name, because there were people that were going to be born in Iraq after I had left and long left. And the impact of their freedom was a result of my decisions that day. So my ability to do my job was not contained to the people that I was with or the place that I was or even the time frame that I was. So when I think about what were my strengths in trying to execute that, I would say the biggest strength was recognizing that as a leader, it was not just an instantaneous moment that my decisions and words were taking. It was a matter of a larger scale for decades to come. And so I had to be very clear about what I was saying and what I was doing because it was important.
Simply incredible. Was there, during that phase, was there any time that you felt a threat to your life? You were under the say that, well, you had to pray to the Almighty God. You said you were a good Christian, saying, God, protect me. If it's thy will, I'm ready to go. Did you experience any of that moment in time?
There were 5 times specifically where I knew that God saved my life. I'll tell you one instance. We were driving away from a meeting, and we were riding in our truck, and we had exited an entry control point. And at entry control points, they have guards that are stationed there they had small mirrors underneath, mirrors on a handle that they would use to put underneath trucks. And they would also have bomb sniffing dogs, and they would just make sure that they had the opportunity to protect the installation as much as possible. And so we exited at the same time as another truck was coming in. And the truck that was coming in, that was passing us, was found to have some clear explosives. And they were able to disarm and arrest the people that were inside that particular car. But we were within inches of not being safe, and that was one time. Oh my God,
it's a narrow escape.
And that was I was glad for security patrol at that time. But on 2 other instances, August 19th and October 25th of 2009, there were 2 and we'll double check the dates on that, but there were two very specific bombings that occurred. And those bombings occurred with a large truckload downtown Baghdad in various locations. And they had bribed, we found out later that they had bribed the guards to leave with American money. And they had taken time to blow up buildings or attempt to blow up buildings nearby. So we've definitely felt those bomb blasts, felt the bomb shakes, felt the building shake, and definitely were within that bomb blast as well. So there were a couple more instances as well, but those were definitely a few times where I knew that God had saved my life.
Wonderful. You know, hearing the news today, it's full of war between Israel and Hamas and Ukraine and Russia, and it must be feeling for you like deja vu. You could, when we see the news, we are just lay people, we just are shocked and we feel remorse, we feel sad. But for you guys who were actually combat veterans there, wouldn't it be a flashback and you could know exactly the poignancy of what the people in Israel, the army, the US soldiers, the Hamas, all of them are going through? Was it, what do you feel? Express to our viewers as you are there. And is it worth it all?
I think the price of freedom is very high. And a person who is willing to die for their country definitely has a cause. But I will say again, war is the ugliest thing I've ever been a part of. And when you experience war, you experience these feelings inside of you, whether it's an intense disdain for somebody else, for a people group, for a cause, or you feel a sense of superiority because you're going in and thinking that your cause is better and that's why it's worth fighting for. Or you think that the person next to you is worth more than the life of someone else. And none of us in the military desire to be killers. We are actually very peace-loving because we want to do our job, we want to prepare, and last resort, if we have to use violence or we have to use that strength and show of force, then we will. But it is not our desire. So when you think about war, and when I see war around the country, I think of mothers who don't have babies anymore. I think of fathers who will never see their sons or daughters again. I think of kids who are now orphaned. And the reality of it is that war changes the landscape of a country, not just physically, but emotionally. And you can look at it and see the ruins, but there are so many hurts inside that you cannot see. And when I think about the wars that are occurring around the world, my heart aches because it's a very, very difficult thing.
But at the end of it all, you feel a sense of triumph, sense of satisfaction that you were able to, like you rightly said, provide freedom for hundreds, millions of people in Iraq, for the future generation too, that they can breathe fresh air, and that you were part of that combat at that time. And it's well worth it all, right?
I think there's a little bit of yes, there's a triumph to where you say we were able to serve. But there is that natural lament where you say there's great difficulty caused by this. So sometimes, when you think about the realities of warfare and you wonder why people come back and their mind has changed, or they have these struggles or these mental illnesses, it's because there is this dichotomy that sits inside of you. I served my country, I did well, I did my job, but at the same time, people are no longer here, or it's difficult, or now people are struggling, or now there are orphans because I was part of this. And so you can feel, yes, I served and I served well and I did what I was told, but at the same time, there's that struggle, and that's why we have so many people who are hurting. And so I'm grateful for opportunities to serve and support veterans and have mental health discussions, because it's very real.
And whenever we go through airports, I fly around the country a lot. You see these young recruits in the Army Green, young kids, 18, 17 with the packs. And I always, especially now that war is in the air and we all are thinking about it, I was thinking about how they're sacrificing themselves, coming out at that early age to protect us, protect our borders. And that's such a great thing, which we have to salute all you who are currently serving the Army and Navy and U.S. Air Force, as well as the veterans who have laid their lives and those who have been injured, and the combat veterans too, because it's incredible what you guys did, nobody else can do.
Thank you.
I would think that's the highest order of service one can give to the country. It's more than any scientist, more than any discoverer, more than all the IT giants, because you all laid your life at risk, and many perished. Many survived.
Well, thank you.
And we want to salute you on that note, not only you, all those who are serving and all our veterans. We want to say, we can say from bottom of our heart, saying thank you is not enough. Our eternally, we are grateful to you and gratitude for you. Having said that, now I see that you have evolved. Now we are not in active service anymore, but you're on the reserve.
Yes,
next week, I'm told that you're going back for a week to serve. Now, the interesting thing which I learned about you is you have established a mission aero pipeline, a not-for-profit organization to serve missionaries through aviation. Could you tell us how did you go about it? I know that also you recently purchased, which you're very proud of, a 4-seater aircraft, Cessna 172, and you're an instructor pilot also. So please tell us how your mission aero pipeline, what it's doing currently for our viewers and others to know about. It's a very interesting, I've heard of missionaries, I've heard of evangelists, I've heard of Jain monks who are going from country to country, I've heard of Swamijis, I've heard of mullahs, I've heard of so many people, but I never heard of a mission aero pipeline. Lieutenant Colonel Green, please go ahead.
Yes, Dr.
You're a
VGP.
path maker.
I am so excited. I love aviation and I love to fly. And for all of you viewers there, full transparency, I started flying with the Air Force, and actually I washed out of pilot training. And so the reason I washed out is because I didn't understand how I learned, and I needed to learn a different way, but I didn't know what to ask. And so ultimately, I was unable to complete Air Force pilot training because I failed at aeronautical decision making. But the Air Force tried hard, I tried hard, and it just wasn't something I could do when I was right out of college. However, short version of the story, I was in Brazil on a missions trip, and there were a couple of missionaries who said, hey, we'd love to reach the Amazon, and we have one plane and we have one pilot, and if that plane is down or that pilot's down, we're stuck. So would you help us? And I said, wow, I haven't flown in a long time, but I don't know. So I talked it over with my pastor, a counselor I trusted, and he said, hey, if you decide to go, put another tool in your toolkit, it can only be helpful. And so I decided to do that. So I went back to school and I got a bachelor's in aeronautics and a master's in aeronautics, and I decided I was going to get back in the air. So I started flying and I became an instructor pilot after I had learned how I learned. So for any of you who are watching, you can fail, but getting back up again and trying and learning how you learn, you can absolutely do anything.
You have done it. You have proven it. Now, what do you propose to do with the new aircraft which you just purchased? Use it for training?
Yes. So fewer than 5% of aircraft pilots are women. Fewer than 150 African American women are pilots in the country. And so there are not a lot of us who are represented in this particular group. So my desire is to take underrepresented people, normally women, brown people, Black people, and help them get into a space where you can have a good trade, you can have a good job, you can travel and see the world. And so my desire is to use this aircraft to be able to teach and train and provide transportation as necessary.
You're simply too much, as we say it in Manila, Philippines. I have a lot of Filipino friends, and they always say you're simply too much. and Lieutenant Colonel Ruth Green, you're incredibly too much.
Thank you.
And now also, having learned about your mission aero pipeline, very interesting, very creative, and serving a niche.
Absolutely.
And bridging the gap. Like missionaries can go to Amazon, and what you're doing is, God bless you, it's something really wonderful. Now, you also are a leadership instructor. You have a corporate called Battle Proven Leadership. Now, tell us about what this Battle Proven Leadership corporate of yours, you're the founder and CEO of that, does, and what is the mission, and what's your vision, and where are you today at that?
So Battle Proven Leadership exists to help organizations build and retain new and rising leaders. And we do that through training seminars. But the reason it's called Battle Proven Leadership is because we take the leadership that the military requires. As a lieutenant colonel in the military, as a former commander in the military, I recognize that my abilities and responsibilities could cost people up to and including their life. So it was my ability to sign a paper that would send somebody into combat. And the responsibility was to know that they were organized, trained, and equipped to serve our country. And my flick of a pen could send somebody to combat and cost them their life. And understanding the gravity of that assignment, and then ultimately having served as a combat mission commander, has led me to have battle-proven leadership. Leadership that has been proven in battle, that has given me the opportunity to understand what leadership looks like. And I'm a firm believer that we have a clear responsibility to build other leaders. And I feel like sometimes leaders fall into this trap where they feel like leadership is something that you can take off and you can put on. But leadership is a responsibility that you must take and you must own. And how do I help people understand how to do that? And then also people think that it's something they can't grasp. They're just like, oh, I don't know good leaders. I know it when I see it, but I can't define it. And so I spend my time defining it. And I spend my time helping people understand practically how to be effective leaders in whatever role they're in.
You said it very well. Leadership is a responsibility that one must take and own.
Absolutely.
Which completes what leadership is. And you and your battle-proven leadership, you build and retain new and rising leadership. And you had a very significant role, like you're saying, as a commander in combat, to signing off if this person can go into combat, and to see the mental workup, if the person's body build up and everything is ready. And so that is why you're calling your corporate battle-proven leadership, yes, which is, I think, only one of the few in the country I've heard of. I think the only one I've heard of with that corporate title as a leadership institute, which is training leaders, battle proven. And how important it is, because when you go into battle and war, it's life and death. And you have to take so many of the indicators into your frame before deciding and making the right decision. And that's an integral part of leadership. And that, I think, has led you to this very pivoted role which you have as a senior advisor for the Polaris National Security. Tell us, enlighten us about that role, and what does Polaris National Security do? You're carrying different hats, so we're going down the list one by one. And it's been a pleasure. Every time you talk, you are enlightening us more and more and more.
Dr. VGP, you are so kind. You and that bow tie. I like it. I like it all. I like it all. So Polaris National Security exists to advise senior leaders on national security issues. And so there are a lot of really smart people that I get the chance to work with, and they understand and connect and collect information so that we can articulate it to help senior leaders understand in order to make good decisions. And we want to fight for an America that's strong, an America that wins, an America that's held accountable. And so it's important for us, our leaders that are held accountable, it's important for us to strongly advise and serve our leaders by providing national security advice.
I would say a very important role, and you, as you rightly pointed out, you want America to be strong, you want America to win, and America to be
and leaders held
accountable. It's beautifully. Now, today, having said that, it's rarely you come across a colored woman, if I may say that, and young as you are, all of 40 when you ran for Congress. I'm coming to that. Before, let me complete my thought before I lose it away, because I think the third world countries where I originally come from, where your mother originally comes from, and other developing countries can use you to be a very effective instrument of change and to lead the women especially, and the men too, about what is combat. Come to face with what is it like being on the front lines in war, and how we could use those experiences in our day-to-day life to be a better person. I think if each one of us are better people, we become stronger and we win. And when we are all together, then that country wins. Like you said, you want America to be strong, America to win. And you have said it so clearly, you are practicing it, which is very important till today. And so tell us, in 2020, when you were all of 40 years old, you had the grassroots experience of, all we hear the elected officials in the Congress and the Senate talk about ceasefire, talk about war. I think half of them have never been anywhere, served the country in any form. I may be wrong, but correct me if I am. But they talk a lot. no action. But here you've gone through the whole rigid, from training to combat, being in a war, and then you have served the country not only in the war but in the missionary field, and educating as an educator, as a leadership instructor, and you came a whole 360 degrees and you ran for Congress.
Yes.
And you ran as a Republican candidate in this very state of Indiana. As I think 92 years you never had what was that?
Congressional representative. That was a Republican.
That was a Republican, and you stood for it, and you came out losing by 5 points to, if I may add, I'm not racist, but I'm just saying, because I worked with the Native American tribe, you lost to a white Democrat.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but I'm saying, I just wanted to, I know we said we won't talk about politics in this talk show, but I think this shows you how you've come progress to that, which has driven you to fight for a seat in the Congress, which can represent your people, represent the veterans with proven leadership. And that's a great task. It takes courage to do that. And you did it, and you did it well.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. VGP.
Having said that, do you think that you just being black would have been one of the reasons it was such a tight, close race for you to lose it? I'm talking, I know I come from Illinois, which is a blue state and all that good things, but Indiana is a red state. So being a Republican, why would you have lost that race?
That's an interesting question. So there's a lot packed into kind of the idea. So in 2020, first and foremost, I found that 19% of the members of Congress had served in the military. So less than a quarter of them understand, but yet Congress is the body that is required to send people to war. So Congress declares war. And so if you understand wholeheartedly what you're sending people into, you are a lot less inclined once you understand what other methods can we use to mitigate potentially giving up American lives. And then secondly, you discussed entering into Congress and perhaps the ideals and desires. And so I admire and respect anybody who's willing to put their mind and body and family forward into the public eye, because it's definitely a fishbowl. You live in a place where everybody looks at you, sees everything you're doing, evaluates everything you're saying, they even evaluate what you're not saying.
Exactly.
And as we were running this race, I found great trust across Northwest Indiana. And there were so many people who were interested in how I could help solve their problems and trying to figure out how we could further American values more effectively. And so I believe that the race was fairly adjudicated and the people decided. And when we talk about whether or not me as an African American and my race played into my loss, I cannot tell you exactly yes or no. But what I can tell you is that we wanted to be engaged with everybody. We wanted to be engaged with Americans. So we wanted to be engaged with Black people and white people and brown people and everybody, because it was incredibly important. And I think that as long as we can value the American experience and, the thought, and I'll give a quick pause, but the thought that when I wear a uniform, I have people from many different races and backgrounds and ethnic origins that I serve alongside. And we are all united for the same goal, and we all trust one another, that one another has our backs in order to do what our task is. And so that trust is there. So my goal was to build trust and confidence across Northwest Indiana. And so I built trust 5.6% less than my opponent. And I just didn't do it as well as he did. And so that's the end state of it. I don't necessarily know why people voted the way they voted, but I trust that the voters made their decision, and Congressman Mervan sits in Congress and is representing us in DC.
You are truly incredible.
Thank you.
And you are a pathmaker, a trailblazer. You are an enigmatic woman who has proven herself. So you don't need the endorsement of being in Congress. And you are today saying, as a person, you're making a difference in your daily walk of life. At 42 years, you recently published a book, which is a very apt title. People don't quit their job. Bosses quit. They quit their bosses.
Yes, sir.
And this was just out hot off the press. and I think you can get it on Amazon. Could you tell us about the book? And it shows your path to leadership and where excellence starts. And I think through this book, you're telling each and every one of us, become the leader who people want to follow. Am I right?
Yes, sir, Dr. VGP. This project is a work of heart for me, and I really do appreciate it. It talks about my time in combat. It talks about my time in corporate life. It talks about my time in running for Congress. And I share some real life stories of my leadership failures, of my leadership successes. But also I have the opportunity to talk very plainly about some of my failures. And I think that the realities in this book will help people to see tactical leadership. Sometimes, like we talked about, people don't understand how to execute it and what to do in plain words. And so this is a very direct book. You can read it in about 90 to 120 minutes. And this is the book that we use as the basis for teaching and training. And the feedback that I've gotten has been great, not just from friends, but definitely from strangers. And they've said it's helped me because it's just direct, it's clear. And my intent is to provide that clarity so that people can walk away knowing very clearly how they can serve their people effectively.
Great. Lieutenant Colonel Ruth Green, could you tell our viewers how they could get a copy of it and what's the cost? And are you giving all the Global Eye and Dr. VGP Talk Show viewers a special discount?
Dr. VGP, you already know. You already know you're getting the special. This book, to all of your viewers, is $20 today, but for you, 2 for $40.
Great, wonderful. Did you hear that? That's what it's called, tactical leadership, my friends. The special discount price for all of you is $20, and Lieutenant Colonel Ruth Green gives a personal discount 2 for $40. And that's, if you can read between the lines, that is what the leadership, the pundit of leadership called tactical leadership. And right down, as you can see, scrolling down the screen, you'll see where you can get this book. It's only a 1 hour, 20 minutes read. It's worth it investing and buying this book because this is what every one of us needs. Maybe you're a high schooler, maybe you're a veteran, maybe you're a senior citizen at 70, maybe you're an excellent corporate CEO, but grab a copy of this while it's still available. People don't quit the jobs, they quit their bosses. And this is a wonderful, heartfelt rendition of what a combat veteran, a successful corporate CEO, as well a people's person. And she brought out this book, Lieutenant Colonel Ruth Green, when at 42 years old, and this was just hot off the press. She had a book release function recently in Chicagoland, and you know, in this talk show, Lieutenant Colonel Ruth Green had talked about war, and she said war is the ugliest thing anyone ever will see anywhere, anytime. And she adds, her tagline is, leadership is a responsibility that one takes, but one should own it. It's not something you can take it off like a coat, put it on a coat hanger. When you want to come back, you want to be a leader, put it back on. So this is Colonel Green giving us great tips. And I think I enjoyed reading this while driving over here. And I think it's a great book here. Colonel Green, you have such an action-packed life. You're a phenomenal woman. What do you do for your spare time interests?
Oh, Dr. VGP, what do I do for fun? I'm trying to think what fun is. No. I love the things that I get to do, truly and honestly. I love to serve, but really when it's just me and it's just downtime, I love the air. I love to fly. When I fly, I feel like I can escape the problems, the issues. I can leave everything behind. And
does it give you a special adrenaline rush?
It actually gives me a peace. It gives me a calmness because sometimes on the radios, you can hear a lot of chatter if you want, but you can fly over the Midwest plains and you don't have to talk to anyone at all. And so you have this kind of just calm sense where I have the luxury of being around people a lot, whether it's speaking at seminars, whether it's keynoting events, or whether it's working with youth, or whether it's teaching and training. And so I have the ability to be around people a lot. And when I have private time, I enjoy private, quiet time, and that's when I can just get in the airplane and just cruise.
And soar high. And that's very, and now I know the secret of your vibrant, radiant personality with your fuzzy hair and bright smile, and all the time feeling happiness around you and peace.
Oh, thank you.
And it's so infectious, and you get us all to smile while we are here with you. If you are given an opportunity, Colonel Green, to take 3 people out for dinner from the past or present, who would those 3 people be?
3 people out for dinner. The first would be Harriet Tubman. She was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and she was freeing slaves in the 1800s, and she was just so brave, and she was just so excited and willing to help people escape from the difficult situations that they were in. And so I admire her greatly, and I would love to take her out.
Her name is again Harriet Tubman.
Tubman.
Tubman. T-U-B-M-A-N.
Yes,
Harriet
sir.
Tubman. Great.
Yes, sir.
The second?
The second would be Barnabas. Barnabas is a Bible character, and Barnabas was a redeemer of Paul, and he was sent from the church at Antioch to help see what was happening at the church at Antioch, because there was a great rising up after Christ had passed away, risen again, and ascended into heaven. And so Paul had been a little bit on the outskirts, and he wasn't highly favored, but he brought Paul from Tarsus to the church at Antioch, and then Paul's ministry was able to kick off. And so I love the fact that Harriet Tubman was someone who would redeem people and save them from the poverty-stricken, terrible places where they were. And then Barnabas took somebody.
Like a kingmaker.
Yes, she was able to free slaves.
Yeah, and Barnabas
was able to take somebody from from great difficulty and tragedy and bring him into the fold and support somebody who, regardless of whether this guy was going to overshadow him or have a bigger ministry or have a bigger work, he was willing to say, I'm ready to help you, whatever it looks like.
Beautiful,
and
simply beautiful.
Egoless, but definitely focused. So that's why I would love to take out Barnabas. And then I think I would love to take for the third person, you know what, if you were my mom would say, who would I like to take out? My future husband. So that's her life plan.
So you're still available.
I'm still available. I will
ready
save
to
that
mingle,
third.
single and ready to mingle.
Yes.
Guys all out there. I hope it's only guys, but guys all out there.
Yes,
we have Colonel Ruth Green, single and ready to mingle, and queue up.
That's
and first get your book. The first step to get to Colonel Ruth Green is to get the book. People don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. And it's available. You can see it right down, scrolling down the screen here today. And get the book. That's your first step to get to know Colonel Ruth Green. And don't be afraid of the title Lieutenant Colonel or Colonel. She's a wonderful, brilliant, vibrant, radiant, pretty young woman.
Thanks, Dr. VGP. I appreciate that.
So the third person we didn't...
third person, we're saving that spot for my mom. My future husband, she'll pick, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Oh, great. That's lovely. So she's still... I thought you were going to say Emily de Marcos, since your mom comes from Philippines.
Yes.
But that's your mom is as good as one of the best, of course.
Sure.
And what was your favorite mom saying? You were telling me earlier about mom's messages.
Oh, my mom's message. Oh, my mom's message to the world. So if my mom were here, she would tell you she would tell you, if you have a son who's ready to get married, call me. That's what she would tell you.
So guys, you got the message again. That's what Ruth Green's mom would tell all of our viewers and beyond.
I love it.
Now, tell us, it's such an enlightening talk show today, having you with us, and so we should have you back, come and address us. We are having events, global conclaves around the country and around the world. I would like you to come as a guest speaker and speak and share your story, inspire us. It's really an inspiring moment here. How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
3 words. I would hope that on my tombstone, people would say she was a Christian. They would definitely say she was curious, and they would definitely say that I was adventurous.
Fantastic. Here, my dear viewers, you're seeing a phenomenal woman, Colonel Jennifer Ruth Green, a combat veteran, a philanthropist, a leadership instructor, and who's also a people person, who describes herself as a Christian, number 1. 2, as curious. That's got such a powerful word when you say curious. That means you're a you are learning throughout. You're a thinker, you're a philosopher, because you're never satisfied with the amount of knowledge you've acquired. You think there is more and more to go. And that's very rarely you come upon an exceptional person of her caliber who says they still have the quest to learn, still the quest to know, and still have the quest to bridge the gap, though she's doing it every day. And she is also entrepreneur, and she said she is also adventurous. So the three words to describe Colonel Ruth Green: Christian, number one; number two, curious; and third, adventurous. With her flying Air Force pilot, and wishing you that you soar higher and higher in all your mission and all your visions turn into reality. Because, friends, there's only one Colonel Jennifer Ruth Green with us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Colonel Ruth Green. It was just wonderful having you on Dr. VGP Talk Show. In parting, what is your message to all our viewers?
Dr. VGP, it has been an honor to spend time with you today. And if I just have one opportunity to connect with people and share one message, I would say simply, there's no point in blazing a trail if the trail doesn't become a road.
So there's no point of blazing a trail if the trail doesn't become a road. What powerful words. Please continue.
Absolutely. And Captain Chris Campbell gave me those words. He's a friend and a colleague. But the reason I chose that phrase exactly is because we can shatter the sky. We can work as hard as we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to get into new places, and we can serve. But at the same time, if we are not bringing people behind us, then it's a very, very difficult road that someone will have to start over and pave on their own. So make sure that you are paving a road behind you by bringing people alongside you and helping them to come along.
What powerful words, Colonel Ruth Green. I would say, like, I don't know Japanese, I know Senara, but I would bow to you for such a wonderful time you spent with us at the Dr. VGP Talk Show. And your words of wisdom will be echoing throughout America and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.